He claimed there's a hidden force inside you right now, stronger than any medicine, and that if you learn how to activate it, it can heal anything. In 1530, Paracelsus revealed a secret system of energy, part alchemy, part soul science, that modern medicine still can't explain. He called it magic, but it's not fantasy, it's energy, and it's real. Let's begin. Imagine a world before microscopes, before X-rays, before modern hospitals. The year is 1530. The air is heavy with incense, the libraries are lit by candlelight, and knowledge is protected in Latin, hidden in grimoires and parchments. And in this dim-lit world stands one man, Paracelsus. Not just a physician, not merely an alchemist, but a rebel soul, one who walked away from the dusty dogmas of the old world and claimed, with fire in his voice, nature herself holds the secret of healing, and it lies within you. Paracelsus unveils something bold, something breathtaking. He declares that there exists a vital force, a spiritual fire that lives within every human being, not metaphorically, not poetically, but truly, actually. It exists as real as your breath, as your bones, as your blood. He calls it the archeus. And the archeus, he says, is the bridge between your soul and your body. It's the invisible architect that shapes your health, your emotions, and your recovery. When this inner energy is strong and balanced, wounds close, sickness fades, sadness lifts. But when it is broken or ignored, nothing heals. Paracelsus saw what others could not. While the world searched for herbs and powders and tinctures, he asked instead, what moves the body to heal? What commands the cells to restore? What is the spirit behind the cure? His answer was clear. There is a divine signature in every living being, and through understanding it, not worshipping it, but unlocking it, you awaken the energy that heals all things. He writes of Mysterium Magnum, the great mystery, a kind of divine code that exists in both stars and skin. This code, he insists, flows through all matter and governs life. It is neither purely material nor entirely mystical. It is both. And to tap into this hidden current, Paracelsus didn't recommend prayer alone, nor surgery, nor superstition. He taught that you must align your inner world with the outer laws of nature. This is where the magic begins. In his view, illness is not merely the malfunction of an organ, it is a disruption in the harmony between the invisible soul energy and the visible flesh. Heal one without the other, and nothing truly changes. But balance both, and anything becomes possible. So how do you do it? You begin, he says, by observing nature, not just the flowers and the fields, but the patterns, the rhythms, the hidden languages within them. Paracelsus believed that just as plants turn toward the sun, your spirit turns toward the light of truth, and that truth lives within you. He speaks of a sacred correspondence between all things, the planets and the organs, the metals and the emotions, the stars and the spirit. If mercury can dissolve gold, then what dissolves sorrow? If salt preserves the body, what preserves the soul? These weren't riddles for him. They were clues, pieces of a divine chemistry. Paracelsus understood healing not as a prescription, but as a realignment of energies that have always been there, waiting. Every illness carries its own cure within it. Not next to it, not around it, but within it, a venom, holds its antidote. A fire, its balance in water. A wound, its urge to close. This is why he warns against doctors who see only the surface. A man may take herbs for pain, but if the soul remains in chaos, the ache returns. True healing, he said, comes when we speak to the archeus, not just to the skin. To do this, Paracelsus did not rely on blind faith. He studied metals, minerals, potions not for their mechanical properties, but for their spiritual signatures. Gold, for instance, was not merely valuable, it carried solar energy, strength of heart, purity of will. He prescribed gold not for wealth, but for vitality, for courage, for restoring the sun within a person. Think of that. Not a pill, not a plaster, but a dose of solar essence drawn from the alchemical union of material and spirit. And you, yes, you already carry these same essences. You are composed of more than bones and blood. According to Paracelsus, you are made of fire, air, water, earth, and something else. The quinta essentia, the fifth essence, the hidden ingredient, the energy that heals it all. Most people never unlock it, not because they lack the power, but because they lack the knowledge of how to see it. Paracelsus believed this energy reveals itself through what he called the astrum, the astral body, not a ghostly shape floating in the air, but a pattern, an energetic imprint that connects you to the universe. When the astrum is disturbed, the body suffers. When it is clear, the body thrives. To restore it, he used ritual, intention, alchemical medicines, and most importantly, consciousness. He believed that your attention is magnetic. What you focus on, you energize. And when you bring awareness to your inner world, without fear, without shame, you begin to activate the archeus. This isn't the kind of healing that happens overnight, and it certainly isn't found in the nearest pharmacy. It's a remembering, a return to the fire that burns in your chest when you love, to the breath that slows when you listen, to the lightness that lifts you when you hope. These, Paracelsus would say, are the medicines of the soul, and they're free. Modern science doesn't quite know what to do with this. A 16th century alchemist talking of spirit fire and soul energy sounds like fantasy to a world built on molecules and charts. But the results? The patients he healed, the knowledge he left behind it persists, because he wasn't speaking in riddles. He was pointing to a truth so ancient, so obvious, that most of us have simply forgotten it. Healing doesn't come from outside of you. It comes from the harmony within, from the archeus, from the fifth essence, from your soul's alignment with the living current of nature. So if you're weary, if you're in pain, if you're searching for something more than prescriptions and platitudes, close your eyes. Listen. There is a flame inside you. It has always been there. And if you learn to honor it, to feed it, to align with the deeper mysteries of your being, then, as Paracelsus said, you shall see wonders, not in the stars above, but in the breath you take, and the light that returns when the soul is remembered. So the question isn't whether this energy exists. Paracelsus believed it does. He saw it, he used it, he lived it. The real question is, will you unlock it? But there is a reason your body feels different under a full moon. Why sorrow deepens in, Saturn's hour, and why some mornings the world seems to hum with possibility. Paracelsus didn't see these as coincidences. He saw them as signatures, echoes of something deeper. He wrote of them plainly, as if explaining how trees grow or rivers flow, Each planet, he said, isn't just a sphere of rock or fire in the sky. It is a living spirit, a force. And those planetary spirits, if understood, can awaken something dormant in you, something that heals. Paracelsus does not theorize, he instructs. He reveals that these planetary spirits dwell not far away in space, but here, within, not as astrology, not as myth, but as governing energies, living inside your flesh, your thoughts, your bones. Each planet corresponds to a specific organ, a temperament, a function of life. The key to healing, he writes, is knowing which planetary spirit is in excess and which is in want. You are not just a body, you are a constellation. And when the spirits that govern you are in harmony, everything flourishes. When they are not, illness arises. He begins with Saturn. Saturn is the spirit of structure, of limitation, of bone. It rules the spleen, the skeleton, the hard frame upon which life rests. When Saturn is too strong in the body, there is rigidity, coldness in joints, slowness in thought, melancholy in the soul. But when it is balanced, Saturn gives discipline, clarity, and deep, stable roots. To unlock Saturn's healing energy, Paracelsus says, do not run from your sorrow, sit with it, temper it. Listen to the part of you that aches to rest, to be still, to hold form. The cure is not always motion, but structure, not always heat, but the right cold. Next comes Jupiter, ruling the liver, the expansion of spirit, the sense of dignity and growth. Where Saturn constricts, Jupiter enlarges. In Jupiter, there is warmth, generosity, and the noble fire of leadership. But too much, and pride festers. The liver swells, anger simmers. Too little, and a person becomes meek, heavy, withdrawn. Paracelsus advises that to draw on Jupiter's healing, one must reawaken the will to thrive, to dream, to move beyond mere survival. The liver is not just for digestion, it is for transformation. What you feed it, physically, emotionally, spiritually, becomes your essence. When Jupiter flows freely in the system, healing comes as confidence, not bravado, but quiet radiance. Mars, then, is the spirit of blood, of iron, of fiery action. It governs courage, but also conflict. The gallbladder is its throne. Too much Mars, and a man becomes combative, inflamed, bitter. Too little, and he withers into fear, fatigue, anemia of soul. To awaken the healing power of Mars, Paracelsus teaches that anger must be understood, not suppressed, that the fire in you is not an enemy if it burns with purpose. Rage can destroy, but it can also burn away weakness. The art is not to extinguish the flame, but to forge it into steel. When Mars is aligned, wounds clot, strength returns, and the heart beats with rhythm and resolve. Then comes Venus, the spirit of love, of harmony, of flesh and beauty. She rules the kidneys and the sexual organs, the waters of the body. When Venus is blocked, the soul grows bitter, the body dry, the skin dull. When overindulged, addiction creeps in, obsession, emotional drowning. Paracelsus taught that Venus's energy is perhaps the most easily misused and yet the most vital. For healing, he says, Venus must be made sacred, not hidden in shame nor squandered in excess, but channeled into connection, creation, intimacy, not only with others, but with the self. Love is not weakness. Pleasure is not sin. They are medicine when rightly ordered. A person who has made peace with Venus can feel deeply and yet remain whole. Mercury governs the lungs, the nerves, the the mind. Quick, elusive, electric. The spirit of Mercury is in your thoughts, those flashes of brilliance and confusion. Too much, and there is restlessness, anxiety, even madness. Too little, and the mind dulls, the voice falters, memory wanes. To awaken Mercury's healing, Paracelsus insists, breathe, for Mercury rides the breath. Inhale with purpose, and Mercury aligns. Speak truthfully, and Mercury purifies. Healers, writers, thinkers all dance with Mercury, but those who overthink, overanalyze, overreach Mercury betrays a calm mind, a curious spirit, and the ability to remain still in thought. That is when Mercury becomes a remedy. The moon, he says, governs moisture, rhythm, cycles, the stomach, the fluids of the body. Its spirit moves through tides and tissues alike. Disrupted, moon energy creates imbalance in digestion, in moods, in the womb and the brain. Too much and emotions flood. Too little and numbness takes hold. To heal with the moon's help, Paracelsus advises that we honor rhythm. Sleep with the dark, wake with the light, eat with balance, move with nature. The moon reminds us healing is not linear. It waxes and wanes. One must not fear the descent. The body, like the moon, must sometimes grow dim to grow bright again. Trust the cycle. The moon heals through patience and presence. And finally, the sun, the sovereign, the core. The sun rules the heart, the center, the soul's radiance. When the sun's spirit flows, the whole system glows. Vitality returns. Vision clears. The pulse of life steadies. When it dims, depression sets in. The immune system weakens. The mind loses its compass. To awaken the sun, Paracelsus prescribes not only light but truth. Live honestly. Act from the heart. Do not fragment yourself to please the world. The sun cannot shine through a broken lens. The sun's healing is in integrity. When the spirit lives what it knows, the body begins to follow. Now listen carefully. Paracelsus did not say these spirits were metaphors. He believed they were real energies woven into your soul, your cells, your chemistry. You are not simply influenced by the planets above. You are composed of their energies. Each healing begins when you ask, which planetary spirit is crying out in me? Which one is too loud? Which one too quiet? And more than that, what in my life has distorted the balance? Maybe you've silenced your Mars too afraid to be angry. Maybe you've drowned in Venus, seeking comfort in places that never give it. Or maybe Saturn has grown too heavy, and you forgot how to feel joy. Paracelsus saw these not as moral failings, but as misalignments. The remedy is not in punishment, but in reconnection. He crafted elixirs, yes, distilled from metals aligned to each planet. Gold for Sun, silver for Moon, iron for Mars. But these were not meant to replace the spirit. They were meant to support it. The true healing comes not from what you ingest, but from what you remember, that you are not just a person with symptoms. You are a system of stars, a soul wrapped in planetary fire, and the energy that heals it all was never lost, just unheard. So if you feel tired, heavy, misaligned, ask yourself not what's wrong with you, but what part of you has, forgotten its rhythm. The spirits are still there, waiting, and when they return to balance, so will you. You don't need to chase the light. You were born with it. The work is simply to listen and let the healing begin. Yet, There is a virtue in the world, not taught in schools, not offered in pills, but flowing in, silence through every living thing. Paracelsus understood this virtue not as something external or rare, but as the invisible essence each planet bestows upon the world and within us. He speaks of virtue as the true spirit of healing, not morality but energy, not behavior but force. He calls it the inward essence, the power each planetary body transmits, not from distance but from resonance. Every illness, he believed, is not just physical corruption, but a withdrawal of planetary virtue. And so, to heal, one must not simply treat the flesh. One must call back the virtue. To understand what virtue means, as he describes it, is to see past the surface of matter. Take gold, he writes, not for its weight, nor its shine, but for its solar virtue, the power of the friends. Sun, locked in mineral form. The virtue of gold is not its price. It is its radiance, its ability to strengthen the heart, uplift the spirit, clarify the soul. Each planet is not merely a celestial object. Each carries a sacred virtue, a spiritual signature, that lives within specific substances here on Earth. These substances can unlock healing when approached with wisdom. You do not ingest them like modern drugs. You awaken their virtue. You draw out their essence not with chemistry, but with intention, with alignment, with Achen, reverence. Let us begin with Saturn's virtue. Saturn gives the power of endurance, form, and stillness. Its earthly counterpart is lead-dense, slow, weighty. Paracelsus says that the virtue of Saturn can anchor a person who is scattered, but it can also darken the spirit when misused. And so, to heal with Saturn is to learn the art of recollection, to gather the soul inward, to still the waters of the mind, to accept the weight of being alive. In Saturn's virtue, you find stability, not through force, but through alignment with the deep, the part of you that is ancient, older than your memories. That part belongs to Saturn. If it sleeps, you forget who you are. If it wakes, you become unshakable. Then comes Jupiter's virtue, noble, expansive, warm, stored in tin. This virtue is not aggressive, it is sovereign. It rules over growth, generosity, and the harmonizing of opposites. To heal with Jupiter's virtue, Paracelsus says one must embrace abundance, not as possession, but as principle. Jupiter corrects what is narrow, tight, or withheld. In the body, it expands the breath. In the mind, it opens the vision. In the spirit, it blesses the will to give. But virtue cannot be stolen. You do not take Jupiter's warmth. You invite it. In moments of gratitude, in acts of quiet confidence, in laughter shared without reason there, Jupiter enters. Mars, on the other hand, offers a virtue that burns, stored in iron. It is the essence of life force, itself. Mars strengthens the blood, not merely as fluid, but as fire. It stirs courage, movement, release. Paracelsus warns, Mars can heal or harm. It all depends on intention. To unlock Mars's virtue is to direct it. You must know what you fight for. You must not let fire wander. If you feel weak, if you have grown timid, tired, or fearful, it may be because the virtue of Mars has gone silent. Reawaken it, not through fury, but through choice. Choose action. Choose challenge. Choose the forward step, and the virtue will return. The virtue of Venus lies not in aggression, but in attraction. It is the power of union. Copper holds her gift. not brittle, not inert, but conductive, like the human soul. Venus softens. She heals wounds of disconnection. She reconciles the divided self. Paracelsus speaks of Venus's virtue as the energy that draws things together, organs that are failing to harmonize, minds that split between logic and longing. She brings them into one rhythm. To call upon Venus is not to indulge, it is to remember beauty, to surround yourself with what nourishes, to speak gently, to feel fully. And in that quiet copper, like flow, healing begins where you stopped believing it could. Then there is Mercury's virtue, locked in quicksilver, ever moving, elusive, sharp. Mercury governs the nervous system, but its virtue is deeper than motion. It is the energy of understanding. Where thoughts are knotted, Mercury loosens them. Where energy stagnates, Mercury stirs it. Paracelsus writes that Mercury's virtue is not to be captured but mirrored. You must learn to move with the moment, to adapt, to think, to speak truth, and then Mercury descends. It does not stay long. Its virtue, like breath, must be renewed. But when Mercury touches you, ideas clear, the fog lifts, and the body remembers how to communicate with itself. The moon, ever-changing, offers a virtue that soothes and cycles. Its essence flows through, silver-soft, luminous, sensitive. The virtue of the moon heals not by strength, but by rhythm. Paracelsus reminds us that water heals not by pressure, but by persistence. The moon governs the fluids of the body, the emotional tides. When its virtue flows, there is balance. Digestion becomes easeful. Sleep deepens. Wounds seal. But when the moon is blocked, emotions swell or vanish. Either way, disease follows. To unlock this virtue, one must return to rhythm. Breathe with the moonlight, rise with the tide. Respect the wax and the wane. You do not demand the moon's healing. You receive it, and in receiving, you remember what gentleness can do. And then the sun, the crown. Its virtue, Paracelsus writes, is the source of all vitality stored. In gold, it governs the heart, the soul's fire, the harmony of the whole. Gold is incorruptible, not because it resists, but because it completes. When the sun's virtue shines in you, all others find their balance. It grants clarity without harshness, joy without chaos, strength without cruelty. To call this virtue is to live honestly, to act from the deepest truth, to be who you are, not louder but brighter. And here lies the mystery. The sun does not push, it draws all toward it. And when its light lives in your chest, your breath, your being, you do not have to force healing, you become it. Paracelsus saw illness not as failure, but as a forgetting, a dimming of these planetary virtues within us, and he gave no false hope, no promise of instant cures, but he taught that every healing begins the moment a person reclaims the virtue they've lost, not by chasing planets, not by swallowing metals, but by aligning one's life, one's breath, one's choices with the sacred architecture of nature. Lead for Saturn, tin for Jupiter, iron for Mars, copper for Venus, quicksilver for Mercury, silver for the moon, gold for the sun, not as relics of superstition, but as keys, each one a gateway to the energy that once awakened makes wholeness possible again. So, If you are weary, if your body aches, or your spirit is lost, begin not with force. Begin by asking, which virtue has gone quiet in me, and how gently, how patiently, how truthfully can I call it home? Because deep beneath the pain, beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, there is still light. The virtue never leaves, it only waits. But they say the stars don't lie, and perhaps they don't. Not in the way that modern maps of the cosmos would define truth, but in the way that a tree knows when to grow, that a tide knows when to rise, and a wound unseen and aching knows when it is time to be whole again. There is an ancient understanding buried beneath the stones of forgotten languages and faded manuscripts, and knowing that whispers, the energy that heals all things, is not separate from you. It's woven into your very being, as intimately as your breath, as silently as your thoughts. Paracelsus invites us to peer into the soul of the planets. But this isn't astrology in the shallow, paper horoscope sense. It is something far older, far more personal. He speaks of characters, not the kind written in books, but celestial imprints, energetic signatures forged by the planets, etched invisibly into the fabric of all things. These characters are not just symbols, they are living keys. And the lock they open, the healing power within you. Each planet, he says, carries a unique virtue, a healing essence. But to access that essence, one must understand its character, its nature. These are not passive influences, they are forces, emanations, and when you learn their language, they respond. To Paracelsus, healing is not a mere matter of herbs or tinctures. It is a dialogue, a subtle interplay between the microcosm you and the macrocosm he universe, between the mortal and the eternal. Between your body and the stars, he begins with Saturn. Heavy, dense, the keeper of time and transformation. It is a planet of discipline and deep structure. Its character carves away illusion, brings patience, austerity. But more than that, it brings binding. The kind of force that holds things together, makes bones. Solid, tempers desire. Saturn's character can be drawn, invoked, impressed onto metals, into rituals, into spirit. And in doing so, one gains access to its curative gravity. In those with scattered minds, shattered routines, broken will Saturn heals by knitting them back together. Then comes Jupiter, expansive, warm, the breath of divine mercy. Its character flows through the blood, the organs of digestion, and the center of moral wisdom. Paracelsus saw Jupiter as a great balancer. Its healing emerges from its generosity. When your spirit is tight and joyless, when your health is stuck in contraction, the character of Jupiter invites you to breathe again, to receive, to open. It is not the symbol itself that heals. Paracelsus reminds us it is what the character connects you to. It's a seal of resonance. When you wear Jupiter's character or breathe it in through prepared talismans or medicines aligned to its hour and day, you're not simply performing ritual. You are inviting the planetary virtue itself to inhabit your sphere. Next is Mars, fiery, cutting, the engine of will and action. Its character governs blood, anger, courage, and motion. Many would fear it. Paracelsus does not. Mars is medicine to those who are weak, depleted, unable to rise. When illness creeps in, through inertia, when the fire has gone out, it is Mars that relights the flame. He warns, though, misuse of Mars brings harm. Too much fire, and the medicine becomes poison. That is the delicate art of healing, not merely invoking energy, but understanding the seed. measure of it. Mars must be called in balance, with intention and through its proper character. Then there is Sol, the sun. Not just light, but vital force. Sol is the sovereign, the animating heart of all. Its character is the blueprint of wholeness. When Sol is rightly invoked, its healing is total, not just for the body, but for the spirit, the core of identity. The sick who have lost hope, the weary who have forgotten their purpose, Sol restores them. Paracelsus taught that Sol's character could be placed upon gold, drawn upon parchment, whispered into the bones of sacred earth, and through it vitality would pour forth, not as superstition, not as fantasy, but as science of the invisible. The moon, Luna, is next, soft, shifting, the mirror of mysteries. Its character is not direct like Mars, nor royal like Sol. It is reflective, healing through intuition, through dreams, through the waters of the body and soul. Luna governs memory, emotion, the tides of internal change. Paracelsus speaks of her as the physician of subtle ailments, the illnesses that escape. Diagnosis, the ones born of loss, of grief, of fear we dare not speak. To unlock Luna's healing is to surrender to a gentler rhythm, a slower one. It's not about force, it's about reception. Luna teaches that healing does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, in moonlight, in sleep, in silence. Then comes Venus, sweet, harmonious, the mother of beauty and regeneration. Venus, in Paracelsus' vision, is the planetary healer of skin, fertility, affection, and harmony. Her character attracts cohesion, wounds that close, fevers that cool, broken bonds that mend. In your darkest moments, when you feel unlovable, unhealable, Venus whispers otherwise. To Paracelsus, Venus was not mere romance. She was a force of restoration, and her character, a delicate balance of curve and symmetry when placed on the proper substance, or meditated upon at the right time, could draw her virtue into the body. Finally, Mercury, quick, mutable, the great messenger. His character is the most elusive and most powerful. Mercury governs the mind, the nerves, the communication between parts. Healing, here, is understanding. Mercury brings intelligence to the wound, clarity to confusion. In many illnesses, the cause is not physical, but a misfiring of meaning, a story misinterpreted, a thought looped too tightly. Mercury's healing is that of the awakened eye. He aligns thought with truth, but Mercury is also a trickster. Paracelsus warns, only those who seek healing with purity of heart can grasp Mercury's full aid. His character, when handled by the foolish, brings distortion, but in wise hands, it unlocks the alchemy of insight. And so, 7 planets, 7 characters, 7 medicines. But this is no invitation to superstition. It's a call inward. Paracelsus does not say these characters are magic tricks. He says they are bridges between the seen and unseen, between your suffering and the subtle forces that can ease it. If your mind is in pieces, summon Saturn. If your joy is lost, reach for Jupiter. If your courage is cold, call to Mars. If your vitality fades, invoke Sol. If your spirit aches in silence, listen to Luna. If your heart is heavy and closed, breathe with Venus. And if your thoughts deceive you, learn from Mercury. You do not need a cathedral or priest or a fortune teller. You only need attention to the stars, to your body, to the link that binds them, what Paracelsus called the character, what we might call intention, or harmony, or prayer. The world around you pulses with unseen virtues, not fantasies, not miracles, but energies, waiting for recognition. And when you match your intention to the right one, healing begins. Not always quickly, not always without pain, but surely, because these characters are not outside you, they are within. And you, dear listener, have always held the key. You were never without the energy that heals. You've simply forgotten how to touch it. Tonight, perhaps. Just listen and remember. Now, in the quiet places where the old knowledge sleeps, there are pages time has not forgotten, only the world has stopped looking. Here, healing begins not with matter, but with energy. And not just any energy, the energy that moves in silence, that flows through breath, blood, and bone, through trees, soil, and stars. Paracelsus calls it virtus, the invisible virtue, the life force behind all transformation. He believed that every living thing carries within it a divine power, not metaphorically, but practically. This power can be drawn out, transferred, even concentrated, not by machines or potions, but by intention, knowledge, and alignment with the great pattern that governs all nature. He calls this process magical transplantation. Now, don't be misled by the word magical. In Paracelsus's time, it didn't mean fantasy or illusion. It meant natural mastery, the wisdom to work with forces hidden from the eye, but real as breath. So what does he mean? Exactly. He begins with a powerful idea that disease is not simply flesh gone wrong. It is the departure of order, the disturbance of harmony. And thus, healing is not just the return of health, it is the restoration of inner harmony through the redirection of energy. According to Paracelsus, healing energy, this virtus can be transplanted, moved like light, reflected in a mirror, or heat passed from hand to hand. He believed you could draw out the sickness, not through violence or surgery, but through natural correspondences, by placing something in the world that acts as a vessel, a conduit, or a mirror to the body. It begins with sympathy, that is, one thing responding to another, even across distances. He writes of materials, plants, roots, pieces of the body even used to attract, absorb, or reflect the unseen energies at work in a person's condition. But these are not simply objects. They are chosen objects, aligned with the individual, their constitution, their nature. In Paracelsus's world, everything has a signature. The oak bears strength, the nettle speaks of fire, the violet of peace. Each root, each stone, each star is not merely itself, it is a carrier of forces that echo through creation. To unlock the healing energy, one must learn to read these signatures. This is the first key, recognition, seeing beyond the surface into the hidden nature of things. Knowing what element within nature reflects your current state or the state of someone you wish to heal. Then comes preparation. Paracelsus writes of using the human excreta nails, hair, sweat not because of superstition, but because, in his philosophy, even these bear the mark of our energetic being. They carry the same signature, and thus they can be used to draw out what afflicts us, not as charms, but as links, as anchors for the healing process. These materials are not magical by themselves, but when placed within nature, buried under a healing tree, exposed to moonlight, bathed in spring water, they become participants in a dialogue. They become points through which nature responds. And this is the second key, intelligent placement, knowing where to place the energy that needs healing. Nature must recognize what is asked of her. You see, for Paracelsus, healing is not about domination, it is about negotiation. You work with nature, not against her. you must understand her rhythms, her timings, her sacred laws. He speaks of aligning these acts with the heavens, of waiting for the right astrological hour, the right phase of the moon, not to enchant, but to amplify, to place the healing work in rhythm with the great cosmic tides. He reminds us, nature resists haste. True healing requires patience. Harmony cannot be forced. It must be invited. And then the final act, intention. Paracelsus returns again and again to the idea that energy responds to will, not wishful, thinking, not emotion, but clear, directed, unwavering will. He warns that the untrained mind scatters energy like a broken mirror. Healing begins with inner focus. You must become still. Your mind must become simple, clear, unclouded. He speaks little of belief, and more of alignment. You do not need to believe a flame is hot to feel. It's burn. In the same way, you need not conjure faith to awaken healing energy. You need only align with it. Now, listen closely here, because this is where most of us turn away. Paracelsus tells us that if you wish to unlock the energy that heals it all, you must accept that you are not a machine. You are not broken parts. You are a field of forces, constantly shifting. What affects your mind affects your flesh. What lives in your thoughts lives in your cells. He tells us to stop treating illness as an invader and to begin seeing it as a message, a distortion, a pattern asking to be corrected. And so, the art of healing becomes the art of listening, of seeing the pattern beneath the pain, of restoring the music that has fallen out of tune. Some will say this is fantasy, but fantasy doesn't survive 5 centuries of medical and spiritual study. It doesn't inspire alchemists, physicians, and seekers for generations. What Paracelsus offers is not superstition. It is a challenge to look beyond your pain, to ask, what in me is out of rhythm? What energy have I denied, neglected, misdirected? What part of me is still trying to sing, even through the noise? And then to act, quietly, humbly, to gather the natural elements that echo your need, to place them with intention in the world, to let the earth take part in your healing, and above all, to focus the will not in fear, but in quiet certainty. This is not a shortcut. It is not a miracle cure, but it is a doorway. You begin with attention. You continue with patience, and you finish with trust in the intelligence of nature, in the dialogue of forces, in the virtue that lives quietly in all things. And in doing so, you become a co-creator in your healing. You are no longer a victim of disorder. You are the one who restores the order. The energy that heals it all is not elsewhere. It is not in the pill or the blade. It is not locked in a vault of knowledge hidden from the world. It is here, in the soil beneath your feet, in the hair upon your head, in the roots and rivers, the air and ether, in the forgotten herbs that line the hillside, and above all, in the silent force that moves through your heart when your will aligns with life. So, the question is no longer, can I be healed? The question is, am I willing to listen long enough to remember how? Let this be not just something you heard, but something you felt, because somewhere within you, that ancient knowledge waits to be stirred again. Not in a book, but in the stillness you offer your own healing. Let it begin. However, there is a language older than any spoken word. It speaks without sound, without symbol, without page. It is the language of form. Paracelsus called it signature, not a metaphor, not a poetic musing, but a principle written into the very bones of nature. A language not taught in schools, yet one that shapes the medicines, the mountains, and the flesh we live in. He reveals a mystery hidden in plain sight, that every natural thing bears a mark, an imprint. That tells us what it is for, what it holds, and how it heals. This is not superstition. This is recognition. The leaf shaped like a heart. Why does it soothe the blood? The walnut resembling the brain. Why does it calm the mind? Why does the yellow of a flower seem to know something of the liver? These questions are not accidents, Paracelsus tells us. They are clues. Because the world, as he saw it, is not random. It is designed, deliberate, and speaking at all times through the shapes it takes. These signs, these signatures, are the keys to unlocking energy, the healing energy, the one that doesn't just mend a wound, but restores balance where something's been lost. And the healer's task, he says, is to learn how to read, not with the eyes alone, but with a deeper kind of sight, the kind that doesn't rush, the kind that sees connections instead of categories, the kind that walks slowly through a forest and begins to feel not just what is green, but what is good. Paracelsus believed that healing could not be found through chemistry alone. It is found when we understand what a thing is saying about itself, its form, its behavior, its essence. That is the signature. He doesn't ask us to memorize herbs or ingredients. He asks us to observe, to notice that a thorned plant is likely a protector, that a plant which opens only in moonlight might speak to the protector, rhythms of sleep and sorrow, that a fruit growing in the cold of winter may carry warmth in ways no laboratory can define. In this way, unlocking the energy that heals is about restoring attention to the world as it is before it was named, before it was split apart. He draws a connection, just as the soul leaves marks upon the body, the way joy lights the body. Eyes or grief sags the shoulders, so too does the divine leave marks upon creation. Nothing is without purpose. Nothing is without signature. But not every signature is obvious. Some are hidden, some require patience. And here, Paracelsus shifts from observation to initiation. He tells us that the deeper signatures are not seen with the outer senses at all. They are felt like intuition that rises from the belly rather than the brain, a knowing that comes not from study, but from resonance, as though one part of the world recognizes another. This is how a healer truly finds what is needed, not by guessing, but by feeling the echo between plant and person, between mineral and mood. It's the reason, he says, why a true physician must be more than a technician. They must be in tune with nature, inwardly and outwardly. They must carry quietness in their own soul, for it is in stillness that the signatures rise. So when someone asks, how do I unlock the energy that heals? Paracelsus would not point you to a cure. He would point you to a correspondence. He would ask, what in nature mirrors your pain? What in the world around you carries the shape of what you've lost? Because in this philosophy, healing is not imposed. It is restored. It is brought back into rhythm through the echo of a natural thing that remembers you. If your heart has grown heavy, he might guide you to the plant whose stem curves gently toward the earth and rises again, one that has suffered the weight of gravity and returned to the sky. If your spirit has scattered, he would speak of the resinous trees whose sap clings and holds together what would otherwise fall apart. If your voice has faded, he'd suggest the blue flower that grows high on lonely cliffs, that sings without needing to be heard. Each of these things, Paracelsus writes, is a bearer of healing energy, not because we said so, but because they carry it, and that energy is unlocked not by force but by understanding. You do not extract it like mining a stone. You meet it like greeting a friend. There is a humility in his method, a reverence. He teaches that to truly heal, one must believe that nature is wiser than we are, and that she has already provided what we need, if only we learn how to read her script. And so, we return to the mystery of signatures. A petal's shape, a root's direction, the colour of a stalk, all of it speaks, not in riddles, but in a language we've forgotten. And remembering it is the act of healing itself. Because in learning to read the world's signatures, we begin to read our own. What kind of energy do you carry? What is your own signature? Are you the steady oak, the restless stream, the silent night bloom? There is healing in remembering your place within the fleece. Great design. Paracelsus believed that the same wisdom that formed the stars formed the remedies. The same energy that holds the planets in orbit also holds your breath. And when you live out of alignment with that pattern, illness appears not as punishment, but as dissonance. And when you draw into your life the thing that mirrors you, not the same, but sympathetic, you begin to come back into tune. This is why he tells us, the cure is never separate from the cause. The thing that ails you has its remedy already encoded in the world. Your only task is to find its likeness. That is how you unlock the energy that heals. Not with mantras, not with rituals, not even with belief, but with correspondence, with clarity, with attention. So walk into the day differently now. Look at the things that grow where others do not. Notice how some plants guard themselves, while others invite. How some twist and cling, while others reach with open palms. These are not traits, they are signatures, and some of them are meant for you. Hold a leaf in your hand. Don't ask what it's called. Ask instead, what does it feel like it remembers? Healing does not begin in the body, it begins in the way we relearn the world. And from that, knowledge, the energy flows again, unhindered, undivided, unmistakably alive. This is how the old ones healed, by knowing the world was not mute, that every shape, every curve, every colour, every bloom was a whisper from the divine, a healing letter sent to those still willing to read. So if you ask how to unlock the energy that heals it all, Paracelsus would offer you this. Start paying attention again. The answers have been waiting for you all along. Now, Paracelsus did not whisper about healing. He spoke as one who had seen it, lived it. He takes us past the herbs, past the stars, past the symbols, and into the core of vitality itself. He tells us that within every person there is a secret fire, not metaphor, but a substance, a presence. He calls it mumia, the vital principle, the radiant echo of life that lingers in flesh, in breath, in bone. It is not merely the soul, nor is it the body. It is the living bridge between the two. And if you want to unlock the energy that heals everything, he says, you must understand the mumia, because healing, to him, was never about fixing broken parts. It was about restoring that bridge, returning to the current of life force that flows through all things. That current, when interrupted, leads to illness, but when strengthened, it becomes the energy that heals it all. Paracelsus knew that this force leaves traces. It remains in hair, in saliva, in sweat. The mumia stays behind in every part of you, even in what you discard. And because of this, it can be gathered, it can be called back, it can be used to restore what has been weakened, to awaken what has gone dim. This is not superstition, he says, but science unchained from rigid tools. You don't need a scalpel to see vitality. You need a way of knowing that is both sharper and softer than that. He describes a world where the body is not just flesh, it is a vessel for the life essence, and that essence, when properly understood, can be preserved, transferred, even reignited in another. Yes, the mumia can heal others through contact, through correspondence, through likeness. Imagine, he says, a cloth soaked in the sweat of a living man. That cloth carries not just scent or salt, but the imprint of his inner fire. That fire, carefully handled, can awaken the same fire in another. But this is no magic trick. There is no shortcut here. There is responsibility. For mumia is sacred. Paracelsus warns that one must not use it lightly. It is not simply a tool, it is part of a person's essence. And so to work with it, one must approach as a guardian would, not a thief, with reverence, not manipulation. He gives the example of the dead. Even after death, mumia lingers in bones, in blood, in tissue. The ancient world misunderstood this, he says, and tried to force healing by consuming parts of the corpse. But that was desecration, not alchemy. The real secret lies not in consuming the body, but in communing with its residue. To unlock the energy that heals, we must understand that vitality can be passed not just through words or touch, but through the invisible presence that all living things carry. And when handled with wisdom, this presence can restore the sick and renew the broken. Paracelsus believed that true physicians, true healers, are not merely those who study illness, but those who can feel life itself, those who know where mumia dwells and how to honor it. And so the question arises, where does mumia live in you? Is it in your breath, steady or trembling? Is it in the warmth of your chest when you speak? Truthfully, is it in the part of you that still longs, still aches, still hopes? That is your mumia. That is the flame that has not gone out. And just as it lives in you, it lives in the earth, in the air, in the roots of herbs, and the marrow of stones. The world is not inert. Paracelsus insists it is alive, and it is full of echoes. Echoes that know how to find each other again. This is why he spoke of sympathetic healing. Not superstition, but resonance. A principle as old as music. When one string vibrates, its twin across the room will vibrate too. So it is with mumia. When you bring into your life a substance that holds the echo of your vitality, whether it's drawn from yourself or from another sympathetic being your body remembers itself, it stirs, it aligns. And healing begins not as a reaction, but as a recognition. This is why the energy that heals is not something we must inject or extract, it's something we rekindle. Paracelsus believed that mumia could be collected not just in cloth or wax, but in ash, in breath, in water blessed with a name. He tells stories of water that once touched the lips of the strong and later brought peace to the fevered. He speaks of a ring worn for years by a joyful heart and how its mumia could warm even the coldest of spirits. And so we begin to see that healing is not locked in hidden places. It is around us. It is in what we've touched, where we've laughed, what we've wept into, and when we begin to see those things not as ordinary, but as carriers of mumia, we begin to unlock a new kind of medicine. This medicine does not silence symptoms. It calls the soul home. Paracelsus also warns us, false healers are many. Those who chase power without purity those who mimic ritual but have no reverence. He says that if you treat mumia like a spell to be cast, you miss the point. If you seek to manipulate it, it will not yield. Mumia responds only to sincerity, to quiet intention, to alignment. He reminds us, even a glance can carry mumia. A spoken word, if true, can transfer it. This is why some people, without herbs or tools, can walk into a room and bring peace. It is not charisma. It is not mystery. It is mumia, flowing freely, unhindered. And so the question becomes, how clean is your vessel? To unlock the energy that heals it all, your body and spirit must be in harmony. Not perfect, but aligned. Because the purer the channel, the clearer the flow. Mumia cannot move through. Corruption, it recoils from deceit. But in honesty, it runs like a river. You don't need rare tools to find this energy. You need only begin to honor where your own vitality lives, in your breath, in your hands, in the spaces that remember your joy. Begin there. Sit with what you've carried. Let memory become medicine. Let presence become your practice, because the world remembers you, and within it are echoes of your strength waiting to be called upon again. Paracelsus never separated science from spirit. For him, they were two faces of the same truth. And, in the mumia, he saw the bridge between flesh and fire, between illness and wholeness. It is not mysticism, it is recognition. You are not just skin and time. You are a keeper of a flame, and the world is filled with kindling. So tend to your inner fire. Draw from what remembers you, and in doing so, you will not only unlock healing, you will become it. But there's a kind of healing that we don't often speak of, a kind of remedy that doesn't come from medicine alone. It is not something you can find in a bottle or in a prescription. It's a power far older than the knowledge we carry in our modern clinics and hospitals. And yet, this power can heal it all. Paracelsus speaks to us about unlocking the energy that heals all things. It is not a magical cure, in the sense we might imagine no incantations, no potions. Instead, he offers us a perspective, a way of seeing the world that understands how life and illness are not separate, but part of the same intricate dance. Paracelsus teaches that disease is not merely an external enemy that we must fight. It is a dissonance, a disturbance in the harmony of the body, the mind, and the soul. When our energies become unbalanced, when our bodies fall out of sync with their natural rhythms, dis-ease arises. It is an interruption, a call for attention. Now, Paracelsus asks us to step away from conventional ideas of illness, to stop thinking of it as a foreign invader. Instead, he urges us to see it as a message. Disease, in this sense, becomes something to understand, not to fear, not to despise, but to learn from. It is a disruption that points us back to the source, the energy of life that sustains us all. What he calls the magical cure is, in reality, a return to this source, a re-establishing of the energetic balance that we lose through our daily lives, through the pressures we face and the negative patterns we unknowingly reinforce. Healing, then, becomes a process of clearing the obstacles that prevent the natural flow of life force. But how do we do that? To unlock this energy, Paracelsus offers us a fundamental truth. The healing energy we need is already within us. It's not outside of us, waiting to be found in herbs or potions, although these can aid us. It is within the very fabric of our being. Paracelsus speaks of the spiritus vitae, the breath of life that circulates through every living thing. This spirit is the energy that keeps us whole, keeps us functioning, and it is, in essence, the energy that heals. When disease strikes, it is often because this spirit has been blocked, weakened, or diverted. Our task, then, is to restore its flow, to reconnect with that life force, that current of energy that knows how to restore balance and health. The question now becomes, how do we reconnect with that flow? Paracelsus gives us clues that transcend the material world. His magical cure, as he describes it, isn't about forcing something to happen externally. It is about aligning ourselves with the natural energies around us. He speaks of the importance of harmony in nature. He points to the stars, to the moon, to the elements. These natural forces are not separate from us. They are part of the same, interconnected web of life. When we live in alignment with these forces, we begin to unlock the energy that heals. Think of the way a plant grows. It doesn't struggle against the sun. It doesn't fight the soil. It simply follows the natural rhythm of life, and in doing so, it thrives. We too are part of this natural rhythm. When we stop resisting the flow of life, when we align ourselves with its energy, we begin to heal. Paracelsus, however, is clear about something important. He tells us that the magical cure is not something that can be attained by mere wish or desire. It requires awareness. It requires understanding of the energies at work within and around us. We must become conscious of the forces that shape our health and our well-being. We must also realize that healing is not a one-time event, but a process. It requires ongoing attention, ongoing balance. It is not enough to take a pill or visit a doctor once and expect to be healed. The process of healing is a daily practice, a commitment to living in harmony with forces that sustain us. Paracelsus is not offering a quick fix. He is offering a way of life, a way to unlock the energy that heals through understanding, through alignment, and through balance. He teaches us that true healing is not about defeating something, whether it's a disease, a pain, or an obstacle. It is about returning to a state of wholeness. One of the key aspects Paracelsus highlights is the role of the mind in healing. The mind, he tells us, is a powerful tool in the healing process. It is not separate from the body. The two are intertwined. Our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, they all have a profound effect on our physical health. If we are consumed by negative thoughts or emotions, they can block the flow of healing energy. But when we cultivate positive thoughts, when we focus on healing, we allow the energy to flow freely. In fact, Paracelsus speaks about the power of the imagination as a tool for healing. The imagination, when used properly, can be a conduit for the healing energy. He encourages us to visualize health, to picture ourselves whole and strong, to align our mind with the natural forces of healing. This practice, he believes, can help unlock the energy that heals. But beyond the mind, Paracelsus emphasizes the importance of the physical body in the healing process. The body is not just a vessel, it is a reflection of the energy that flows through us. When the body is in a state of dis-ease, it is a reflection of the disruption in the energy flow. To heal, we must tend to the body, not just with external remedies, but with care, attention, and respect. The magical cure Paracelsus speaks of is one that integrates mind, body, and spirit. It is a holistic approach to health that recognizes the interconnectedness of all things. It is a recognition that healing does not come from a single source, but from the balance and alignment of all the forces at work within us. The magical cure, then, is not magic at all. It is the restoration of balance. It is the unlocking of the energy that has always been there, waiting to be recognized. It is a return to the natural flow of life. So, how do you unlock this energy? You begin by understanding that healing is not an external process. It is an internal one. It begins with you. It begins with your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, and your commitment to living in harmony with the natural world around you. It is about aligning your mind, your body, and your spirit with the flow of life. Paracelsus reminds us that healing is not an event. It is a process. It is not something you can force, but it is something you can cultivate through awareness, through balance, and through connection. You unlock the energy that heals it all. Remember this: you have the power to heal, not because of some external magic, but because you are part of the living energy that surrounds you. The energy that heals is within you. It always has been. But when we think of healing, we often picture something immediate, something we can grasp with our hands or see with our eyes. We want answers. We want quick fixes. But what if healing isn't about rushing toward a solution? What if the key to unlocking the energy that heals it all lies in the slow, patient process of transformation? In the old texts, there is a symbol that stands out above all others when it comes to transformation and healing: the philosopher's stone. This mystical object, often associated with alchemy and magic, is not just a literal stone, but a profound symbol of the process of inner change and self-mastery. It represents the potential to unlock a powerful, life-changing energy, an energy that heals, transforms, and restores balance. Paracelsus speaks to us about the philosopher's stone not as a mere artifact, but as a symbol of the deeper work required to tap into the healing energy that lies within us all. The preparation of the philosopher's stone, according to Paracelsus, is not about searching for something outside of ourselves, but about going through a process of inner refinement, purification, and enlightenment. What does this mean for us? How do we begin this process, and what does it have to do with unlocking the energy that heals? Paracelsus begins by telling us that the philosopher's stone is not a magical object that can be created in a single moment. Instead, it is a gradual process, an unfolding, a transformation of the self. This is crucial because it means that healing is not something instantaneous. It is something that requires effort, focus, and dedication. It is a journey. To begin this journey, Paracelsus invites us to reflect on the nature of change. Change, he tells us, is not something to be feared. It is a natural part of life. Like a tree that grows, shedding its old leaves to make way for new ones, we too must go through periods of shedding. But what are we shedding? Exactly? We are shedding our impurities. The impurities are our doubts, our fears, our negative thoughts, and our toxic habits. These are the things that weigh us down, that block the flow of energy within us. Healing, Paracelsus suggests, begins with the process of purging these impurities. This is where the work of preparing the philosopher's stone begins within ourselves. The key here is not to focus on the impurities themselves, but to understand that they are temporary. They are not who we are. We are not our fears, our doubts, or our negative emotions. These are simply layers that have accumulated over time, and the task is to strip them away. The preparation of the Philosopher's Stone, then, is the act of clearing away what is unnecessary, what is unhelpful, and what no longer serves us. It is a process of purification, and when we begin this process, something extraordinary happens. We begin to uncover the energy that has always been there, the energy that heals. Paracelsus emphasizes the importance of patience in this process. Just as a tree doesn't grow overnight, the Philosopher's Stone cannot be created in an instant. It requires time and focus. It requires dedication to the process of purification, of inner work, of becoming more attuned to the forces that govern life. The Philosopher's Stone is a metaphor for the ultimate healing energy, an energy that is not simply physical, but spiritual, emotional, and mental. It is a holistic energy that brings balance to all parts of our being. The process of preparing this stone within ourselves is about aligning our mind, our body, and our spirit. To do this, Paracelsus speaks about the importance of balance. The energies that heal come from a place of balance. Healing doesn't come from an excess of energy or from trying to force things to happen. Healing comes from allowing the right energies to flow through us unimpeded. The Philosopher's Stone, then, represents this perfect balance, a balance that, once attained, unlocks the energy that heals. The process of preparation requires us to confront our own limitations and imperfections. It requires us to acknowledge the things that hold us back from this state of balance. But this confrontation is not something to fear. It is an opportunity for growth. It is an invitation to transform, to refine, and to elevate ourselves to a higher state of being. What Paracelsus is telling us is that we are all capable of this transformation. We all have the potential to unlock the energy that heals, but it requires us to be willing to undergo this process of change. It requires us to work through the impurities, to shed the old layers, and to refine ourselves. The Philosopher's Stone is within each of us, waiting to be uncovered. But how do we begin this process? Paracelsus does not leave us without guidance. He tells us that the first step in preparing the Philosopher's Stone is to develop a deep sense of self-awareness. We must be honest with ourselves. We must look within and confront the things that are preventing us from healing. This is not about self-judgment, but about self-recognition. It is about acknowledging where we are on our journey and where we need to go. Once we have this self-awareness, we begin the work of purification. This is where we let go of the things that are holding us back, the negative thoughts, the unhealthy habits, the past wounds that we continue to carry. These are the impurities that cloud the flow of healing energy within us. Paracelsus emphasizes that this is not something that happens all at once. The process is gradual, and it requires patience. It requires us to be kind to ourselves as we go through this process. We must allow ourselves the time to heal, to transform, and to become more in tune with the natural energies that surround us. As we continue this process, we begin to unlock the energy that heals. It flows within us and through us. It is the energy that restores balance, that brings peace, and that heals our bodies, minds, and spirits. And just like the Philosopher's Stone, this energy has the power to transform not only ourselves, but the world around us. Healing, according to Paracelsus, is not just about curing disease or alleviating pain. It is about returning to a state of wholeness, of being fully aligned with the forces of life. It is about reconnecting with the source of all healing energy and allowing that energy to flow freely through us. The Philosopher's Stone is not a destination, it is a journey. It is the process of continuous transformation, of continually refining ourselves, of continually unlocking the healing energy that is already within us. And as we unlock this energy, we begin to heal, to grow, and to become the fullest expression of who we are meant to be. So, take a moment to reflect on your own journey. Are you ready to begin the process of preparing your own Philosopher's Stone? Are you ready to unlock the energy that heals it all? The power is within you. It always has been. All it takes is the willingness to transform, to purify, and to align yourself with the healing forces of the universe. Yet, in the search for healing, many of us find ourselves yearning for something more than simple remedies. We seek not just to alleviate our discomfort, but to truly heal from within. I want to tap into an energy that isn't just fleeting or superficial, something that touches us deeply, something profound. But where does this energy come from, and how can we access it? Paracelsus opens a door to a powerful truth. The energy that heals is not just contained within us, nor is it something we pull from the world outside. It comes from the unseen forces, what he calls the spirits, entities that reside in realms we are often unaware of. But these spirits are not otherworldly beings in the conventional sense. They are forces of nature, symbolic energies that we can interact with, align with, and use to bring healing into our lives. Healing, as Paracelsus teaches, is not merely a process of treating symptoms or curing diseases. It is a holistic act of alignment, where the body, mind, and spirit resonate in harmony with these invisible forces. To unlock this healing energy, we must understand and work with these forces, which are always present in our environment, waiting for us to recognize and channel them. Paracelsus calls these spirits, and though the term may sound mystical or archaic, it's not a reference to ghosts or supernatural entities in the way we often think. Rather, the spirits Paracelsus speaks of are the energies that govern life, the subtle forces that influence the balance of nature. These spirits could be likened to the vibrations of the universe. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions all vibrate and resonate in accordance with these forces. Healing, then, is about aligning our own energy with the natural rhythms of the world around us. When Paracelsus discusses magical ceremonies, he's not talking about rituals in the traditional sense of casting spells or invoking supernatural beings. Instead, he refers to intentional, focused actions that bring us into communion with these natural forces. To heal, we must engage in these ceremonies, not in the sense of performing elaborate rituals, but through mindful, deliberate actions that tune our being to the healing energies around us. At the heart of Paracelsus's teaching is the concept of balance. For energy to heal, it must flow freely and harmoniously. When we are out of balance, when our thoughts are scattered, our emotions unsettled, or our physical health in disarray, this flow is interrupted. And when the krakens.com flow is interrupted, healing becomes difficult, if not impossible. The magical ceremonies Paracelsus describes are the practices that help restore this balance. One of the key ceremonies that Paracelsus touches on is the act of stillness. In our busy, chaotic lives, we rarely take the time to sit in quiet reflection. Yet, it is in stillness that we reconnect with the deeper energies of life. Paracelsus understood that when we quiet the mind, we can begin to perceive the subtle vibrations around us. This stillness is not passive. It is an active state of receptivity, where we are open to receiving and aligning with the natural forces that can guide our healing. This stillness is not just an inner state, but an outer one as well. Our environment plays a significant role in our well-being. Paracelsus encourages us to cultivate an environment that supports healing, whether it's a clean, peaceful space or the connection we feel when we step outside and breathe in the natural world. We are always surrounded by energies that can either support or hinder our healing process. Another important aspect of Paracelsus's teachings is the idea of ritual. Now, this is where things get interesting. Ritual does not have to be complex or grandiose. It doesn't require incense, elaborate prayers, or arcane symbols. A ritual, in the context Paracelsus speaks of, is simply the intentional use of our actions and our focus to align ourselves with the forces of nature. This could be something as simple as taking a moment each day to pause and breathe deeply, to reflect on what you are grateful for, or to move your body with awareness and intention. When we begin to consciously engage with the world around us, we begin to notice the energy that flows through all things, just as a river flows through the landscape, carrying nutrients and life. So too does the energy of the universe flow through us. The key is to become aware of this flow and to allow ourselves to be carried by it. Paracelsus also speaks of the importance of willpower in this process. To unlock the energy that heals, we must first intend to do so. Willpower is the force that directs energy. Just as a compass points us in the right direction, our will directs the energy that surrounds us. Without intention, energy remains scattered, unfocused. When we choose to engage with the healing energy of the universe, we are not passive recipients. We are active participants in the process. In this context, magical ceremonies become moments of deliberate intention. These ceremonies are ways we engage our will to align with the healing energies around us. Paracelsus suggests that we don't need to wait for something external to change in order to heal. The energy is already available to us. What we must do is choose to engage with it, to direct it with focused intention. This is where the real magic happens, when we realize that healing is not something that is done to us, but something that happens through us, as we direct and channel the energy of the universe. It's important to understand that the energy Paracelsus refers to is not separate from us. It is not an external force that we must summon from afar. It is already within us, and it flows through us. The task is to remove the blockages, to clear away the distractions, and to make ourselves receptive to this flow. Once we have cleared the space, the healing energy will naturally begin to move through us, restoring balance, health, and peace. As you listen to these words, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Do you feel out of balance? Are you struggling to access the energy that can heal you? The first step is simply to recognize that healing is already available to you. You don't need to look outside yourself for the tryptonine solution. The energy that heals resides within you, just as it resides within all things. Healing requires a shift in perspective, a shift from seeking something external to recognizing that the power is already within you, that the healing energy of the universe is always present. Our task is not to summon it, but to align ourselves with it. So, take a deep breath, step into stillness, be present with yourself and with the world around you. As you do, you will begin to feel the subtle forces of nature at work, and in that moment, you will begin to unlock the energy that heals it all. And now, there are what Paracelsus calls the forces that heal. The first step Paracelsus lays out is the understanding that we, as individuals, are also part of these cosmic circles. Our bodies are not separate from the world around us. We are part of a greater whole, and just as we participate in the natural cycles of life, so too do we participate in the healing energies that permeate the universe. To unlock the healing energy, we must align ourselves with these natural rhythms. This is where the concept of the magical circle becomes essential. It's a way of conceptualizing the flow of energy, not something outside of us, but something we are constantly engaging with, whether we realize it or not. Paracelsus talks about the importance of becoming aware of this flow. He believes that when we align with these cosmic forces, we unlock their potential to heal us. Now, you might be wondering, how do we create this magical circle? How do we align ourselves with these energies? The answer lies not in complicated rituals or esoteric practices, but in cultivating a deep awareness of the natural flow of energy around us and within us. The circle is not something we draw with a chalk or a marker. It's a state of being. It's a way of tuning into the natural flow of life, of becoming aware of the subtle energies that influence our bodies, minds, and spirits. Paracelsus emphasizes that to unlock the healing energy, we must first understand that the circle is not just a shape, but a process. It is an ongoing cycle of creation, destruction, and rebirth. This cycle is present in everything. It is the essence of nature itself. When we are disconnected from these cycles, we become ill, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But when we realign ourselves with these natural rhythms, we restore balance. This is how healing happens. The second step Paracelsus describes is the importance of intention. A circle is not a passive shape. It is a dynamic force. It requires intention to complete its flow. To engage with the healing energy of the universe, we must first intend to do so. Our intention is the point at which our will meets the natural forces around us. Just as a compass directs a ship through the ocean, our intention directs the flow of energy in our lives. When we engage with the energy that heals, we must do so with clarity and focus. This is where Paracelsus speaks of the importance of composition in the magical circle. A circle, like any force, must be composed of the right elements. The energy we seek to harness is no different. If our minds are scattered, our emotions unbalanced, or our actions inconsistent, we disrupt the peasy flow of energy. But when we focus our intention, align our thoughts, and bring our actions into harmony, we create the conditions for healing to occur. This process is not about forcing or manipulating energy. It's about inviting it in. The healing energy of the universe is always present, but we must open ourselves to it. We must create a space, a circle, if you will, where we allow this energy to flow freely. The more we align with these forces, the more we become conduits for them, and in doing so, we heal. Paracelsus also discusses the importance of patience in this process. Healing, as he notes, is not always instantaneous. The circle is a continuous flow. Just as the seasons take their time to change, so too does the healing process unfold in its own time. In a world where we often demand quick fixes and instant results, Paracelsus reminds us that true healing cannot be rushed. It requires trust in the process, faith in the natural cycles that govern life. But just as a circle cannot be completed without movement, healing cannot occur without action. The final step Paracelsus speaks of is the practice of living in alignment with the energy that heals. This doesn't mean merely thinking positive thoughts or meditating for an hour each day. It means living in harmony with the world around you. It means acting with intention, staying present, and cultivating balance in every aspect of your life. The circle is not something we only think about in moments of quiet reflection. It is something we embody in our actions, in our relationships, and in our choices. Every action we take sends out ripples of energy into the world, and every decision we make contributes to the overall flow of energy in our lives. To truly heal, we must act with awareness, understanding that every choice we make either supports or disrupts the natural flow of life. Healing comes when we understand that we are part of a greater whole, when we align with the natural cycles of the universe. We unlock the energy that heals. Paracelsus teaches us that the energy is always there, available to us, but only when we create the right conditions. By understanding the composition of the magical circle, we come to see that healing is not about force, but about flow. It's about aligning with the natural rhythms that govern life and trusting in the process of transformation.